Hello, everybody. It is noon, and as promised, today we are live with the lovely Corinne from KAIE Marketing.
Hi,
Hi, Cor.
everyone.
How are you?
Hi.
How
Sorry,
are
you cut.
you?
I'm good. Sorry, it cut off for a second there. I'm good. I'm very good. Looking forward to talking about some social media SEO today.
Yeah. So we've both kind of things tend to happen with us. We kind of
We
decide to
do.
spend together. Always synchronized. But this week
Exactly.
we were social media synchronized because both our
We
companies
did.
decided to do a social media week. Tell us a little bit
Exactly.
about social
Uh,
media week, how it's
Exactly.
going.
Yep. No. Firstly, it wasn't that crazy. When I noticed on Monday that you were also having social media week, and I thought, oh my goodness, again, here we go again. It really always happens with us. Yeah, so I decided to have a social media week because in the last, I think 2 weeks now, the last 2 weeks, there have been some really important changes that have taken place mainly on Instagram. But that sort of got me thinking about, are we really optimizing our social media platforms? And, am I doing it properly myself? So it sort of got me thinking about, okay, now is a really good time right before Christmas to sort of, start making sure that we're getting the most out of our social media accounts with regards
Mhm.
to, SEO and optimization, because a lot of people don't think about SEO and
Exactly.
social media in the same kind of,
Exactly. And in fact,
thought.
that was going to be my first question because
Yeah.
a lot of people tend to separate SEO from social media. So can you tell us what is social media SEO?
Okay, so I guess the easiest, clearest, simplest way to put it is that it's all the things that you can do to optimize your social media accounts. So your actual, whether it's a YouTube account, a Facebook account, Instagram, whatever, your posts, because there's also other ways that you can optimize individual posts, whether that's a video or, an Instagram or Facebook, whatever. And also your stories, how you can optimize your stories so that you're making the most out of all of those things and encouraging organic traffic and sort of organic discovery and engagement of your material, of your content. So that's sort of in a
Okay.
nutshell what it is.
And okay, so before we get on to the stories, because I really want to kind of focus a little bit on that, because the more time passes, the more I see people, even in our industry, engaging in stories and putting up stories. So I really want to
Oh,
focus a little bit on
absolutely.
that.
Yeah.
But before we do that, when you mentioned that there are ways of optimizing posts, for example,
Yeah.
what can people do to optimize their Facebook posts or their Instagram posts? I know we're going to talk about Instagram in more detail.
Yeah,
So
no, but let's
start.
start there because I think it's a really good sort of, Instagram and Facebook are a really good place to start because they are kind of really good common ones. They're ones that people have been using for a long time, so they feel really comfortable using those two platforms, and then so taking these next steps to optimize, it's not so scary or difficult. Okay, so let's start with Facebook. So there's some really, really simple things that you can do, and I'm just going to kind of not rush through, but I'm going to sort of breeze through these. One of the easiest things to do is add a location to your posts. Now, why you should do that is that every time you add a location, you're telling the Facebook algorithms, hey, this post belongs to this particular location. So then if somebody clicks on that location on Facebook somewhere, maybe they've seen that somebody's checked into that location or is there and they've clicked the name of the location, your post then immediately appears alongside the other posts that are tagged with that location. So it's quite important for sort of reach and organic discovery to have that location tag or location, in your post. I mean, also Facebook, also, a really good thing you can do with Facebook is the alt text behind the images. Now, clients of mine that I work with, they know that I go on about alt text all the time. And the reason for that is that
You
it's
talk about it all the time.
I do. I really do. It's such a simple, easy thing that you can do. It takes you all of about 30 seconds. And you really should be doing that because it's a good place to sneak in some keywords. It's a good place to sneak in some branding. And it's also just an extra thing that you can do to make sure people, when they're searching for things, can find your content. A really good example of this the other day, just to show you why it's important for you to write your own alt text, because Facebook and Instagram will create alt text for you. If you don't do it yourself, they will create one for you, which sounds really nice and really helpful, but in reality, it's not that helpful. And an example of that was about 2 weeks ago, I changed my profile picture on my Facebook account. And then I suddenly thought, oh, I haven't put any alt text on that. So I opened up the Facebook, the post, and I looked at the alt text. And you do that just by clicking those three round dots in the right corner.
Yep.
And I looked at that, and the alt text said woman.
There you go. Well, at least they got that right.
Yeah, it was accurate. I do identify as a woman, but it basically it could have been worse. It basically bought me nothing. I mean, no one is going to find me through searching for woman. So then I was able to go in there and give it a much more descriptive, title, say who I was and what I did.
Okay, and just perhaps a small question before we move on to the next topic. When you're saying that we need to optimize our posts and we need to add alt text, how long should this phrase or sentence be?
That's actually a really good question, Ben, because on your website, you basically have free reign. You can have nice, basically they can be as long as you want. But for Facebook, we're talking about a platform where people aren't wanting to read screeds and screeds of information. And Instagram is also the same. So I would say one decent length sentence, one accurate descriptive sentence, maybe 2 sentences if you want to push it a little bit, but one really good sentence would, is totally appropriate and, the sort of thing that you're looking at doing. So for example, when I wrote the alt text for my new profile picture, it was something along the lines of Corinne Algie, lead consultant of, Corinne Algie International Education Marketing. So, really descriptive. I told them exactly who I was. I think I did actually make reference to the fact that I was a woman. But I mean, you want it to be accurate. That's the most important thing. It has to describe what the image or post is about. And you want to make sure that you get some nice keywords in there, whether they are topic specific or brand specific.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Okay. And in any case, I mean, I'm going to mention it now, but I will remind those watching us again at the end of this. So first of all, if you have any questions right now about social media marketing and social media SEO, do join our discussion. Drop us a line in the chat at the bottom, and Corinne will be able to answer your questions right now while we are live. However, over and above that, we are also launching today the possibility to host a webinar where Corinne will be answering will be giving a more detailed overview of what social media SEO is.
Absolutely.
So anybody is interested in having perhaps a more private, a small group.
Where we could look more specifically at your accounts and this kind of thing and use some real world examples.
Exactly. Yeah. So please do get in touch, drop us a line or drop Corinne a line, and we'll get that organized for you.
Yes.
So if you have questions right now, add them in the chat box. If not, and you prefer to have perhaps a lengthier conversation later on, drop us a line and we'll organize
and we'll make that happen. Right.
We're like Christmas.
So okay, I'm not going to talk about alt text anymore for the moment. So
let's move on to stories, because again, like I said before, I'm noticing that a lot of people, it's kind of the in thing, and I speak for myself as well. It's something that I kind of enjoy. Like before I go to bed, I just flip through everybody's story, see what everybody is up to. So stories are things that people follow when they are a little bit more relaxed. So they tend to
Exactly.
notice what's in them a little bit more. How can we take advantage of that, and how can we
Okay.
optimize them?
Well, that said, I think that when I'm personally looking at stories, especially if I'm looking, as you said, late at night when I'm sort of winding down to go to sleep, I'm not wanting to have a lot of really heavy content in the story. I think a story gives you the opportunity to sort of personalize your content a little bit, like show people a little bit more who you are and what you're doing, what you're about. I mean, the easiest way to deal with stories, and I do this myself, is just I have my Instagram and Facebook linked.
Yeah.
So whatever I post on my Instagram stories ends up on Facebook, unless it's something really specific for Instagram, and then I just click not to feature that on Facebook.
Mm-hmm.
Exactly. So what you're wanting to do to optimize that, again, you've got hashtags. Hashtags operate very similar to keywords, and we're going to sort of go into that a little bit more in a wee bit. And with those hashtags on Instagram, you have a maximum of 10 hashtags. Now, when we're thinking about hashtags, you really, there's a ton of research that you can do, but most of the time we're in this industry, and a lot of the time, or most of the time, our gut instinct as to what a hashtag should be for our industry is actually quite correct. So, I mean, it's as simple as you can have one keyword showing as a sticker, and what I think hashtag showing as a sticker. And I think a lot of people sort of thought that was the only one they could have. I know for a long time I did. But you can actually have 9 more. It's just that one can be shown as a sticker, and then you have the freedom to have 9 more hashtags on your stories. Now, the reason why you should have take advantage of these 10 hashtags is because those are the things that people are searching for. So as I said, they operate kind of similar to keywords in a lot of ways. So you want to hit on as many hashtags or as many keywords, as possible. You want to open that up. You want to cast your net wide. So using all 10 really helps you to do that. I think earlier this week I mentioned that having 10 hashtags on a story, I mean, that could fill up a whole story if you're not careful. So there are some sort of ways that you want to, optimize for user experience. You want to type those out, shrink them down, and then hide them behind something. So whether it's behind a sticker or a poll, or, if you use text with a block behind it, hide those hashtags behind those items. And why? Well, then your viewer isn't seeing them. They're not being disturbed by them. But the algorithms are. The algorithms are still crawling through that content, and they're still finding those hashtags and categorizing you and your content, with properly. So that's a really good way to optimize both visually, so that you're not, nobody wants to see 10 hashtags, splashed all over a story. But you are still making the most of it, because, why only have one hashtag and keep your focus really, really narrow when you could really open that up?
Exactly. So definitely, okay, so that's I'm actually thinking as you're saying that, because it's definitely food for thought. And I was one of those people who thought that you could only, for a long time, that you could only use one hashtag. So it's really important for people to find out that they can use more, especially like we said, since they are, everybody is now making use of stories.
Absolutely. And that also applies for Facebook as well. So if you have, for example, if you have them linked, if you have them linked like I do, basically, if you have used your 10 hashtags on Instagram, the same applies to Facebook. You can use, that carries across.
Okay, that was exactly, you've answered the question before I even asked it.
Great minds, yet again.
Okay, so let's move on, because I know that we wanted to dedicate perhaps the majority of the session today to Instagram.
Exactly.
And we already started talking about optimizing stories, but how can you optimize Instagram posts?
Okay, so actually, I'm going to take you back one step, I think, because I think the optimization starts right at your bio. And I think that a lot of people are missing opportunities in their bio. And this has become even more important. And I'm going to tie it all together at the end. This has become even more important recently. So what are some of the ways that you can optimize your bio? So there's sort of three really key questions that you need to, well, three really key things that you need to make sure that you're doing in your bio. So one of them, what do you do? Now that sounds really silly, but some of us have business names that say absolutely nothing about what we do. Or perhaps, like in my case, it's not specific enough. I could be marketing anything. Okay, so instead of saying, you know, KAIE marketing, I have Corinne, education marketing consultant, or something like along these lines. International education marketing, something along those lines. It's more descriptive, tells people what I'm actually doing using those key words. Okay. So then the next thing is who you are. So it's important to sort of show who you are in some way. If you are a school, then do tell people you are a school. If you're an agent, make sure that you state that, because it can be confusing. Again, sometimes our business names don't tell people what we do. And so we need to make sure that we're telling people what we also do. And another thing that's really important is to have a call to action, because you want something. People subconsciously are attracted to questions and sort of, you know, things that make them think. So have a call to action. Contact me or DM me for a free PDF, or, you know, contact me if you want to study abroad. You know, it doesn't have to be anything crazy. It can be really nice and simple like that. Some of the other things you need to think about, and this is sort of like a user experience optimization, is your bio easy to read? Nobody is going to stop and read a great big block of text. So you want to make sure that you're doing things like using bullet points, just keeping it really nice and easy for your audience to read.
I'm going to stop you for a second here, Cor, because I noticed, something I noticed, and that's popping in my head right now. Whenever I see like these really huge Instagram accounts, like influencers and stuff, I notice that in their bio, they do have the bullet points, which you are mentioning, and they also make use of emojis a lot.
Yeah.
That help?
No, it does, actually. There's been lots and lots of research done. And one of the things they discovered, that emojis do actually increase engagement. Now, I was having a conversation with a client the other day about the appropriate use of emojis, because you really have to think about what kind of emojis fit your business and what they're going to say about your business. So if you're an influencer, and say a fashion influencer, using a shoe or you know, a dancing girl or whatever might be appropriate. It may not be appropriate if you are a university in Malta, for example. So you really have to think about, you know, the emojis that you want to use, the ones that, because
for example, in our industry, at least this is one of the ones that we have on our profile. We have the globe. So
absolutely.
Kind of when we say that we are present in over 8 countries worldwide, again, we're saving on text.
Exactly.
But we add the globe. So it is kind of learning how to speak a new language. And I notice a lot of young people who speak like that today. You know, so sometimes I see captions on Instagram, mainly on Instagram. And there are all of these stories, but when you really look at them and when you put them together, they actually mean something. And it is something that I see in a lot of bios.
Yep, absolutely. And, you know, if you are, for example, you know, like for me personally, my business is quite formal. I'm not dealing with students particularly. So I have something very simple, like the blue diamond. But then if you were to look at one of my personal accounts, then, you know, I have an account about, I'm going to use the example of my Life in Germany account. Then I use the German flag and I use a pretzel, because it's appropriate to the content. It's appropriate to the image that I'm trying to create. I mean, there are certain ones that I would absolutely stay away from. I do not want to see a winky emoji smiley in anyone's bio, because that really is giving not the professional image that you necessarily want to as a school or an agency. So yes to emojis. There is one teeny tiny caveat to that. So your Instagram content, as long as your profile is public, and if you're a business, then yes, it should be public. If your profile is public, then that means that the Google algorithms, the Google crawlers, are also going to crawl through that content, and they're going to create your metadata from your post's title and caption. Okay, so what that means is that if you are writing a post and you put a lot of emojis in the beginning of your post, at the beginning there, then those will actually be included in your metadata on Google.
Okay.
Now, emojis they don't show up too well as metadata. So my advice would be that in the first sort of like 125 characters, so the first couple of sentences, I would probably be light on them. I'm not saying don't use them at all, because they do make an impact on Instagram, but go light, not 10 in a row, something crazy like this. Make sure that you sort of scatter them throughout your post. You can go heavier after that first 125 characters.
Okay.
Even a little bit more than that. Around about 160 characters is what shows up on a Google on a Google what do you call it, results page. So 125 show up on Instagram, 160 show up on Google. So you have to kind of balance that out and kind of marry them together. But yeah, so just be careful. Go light in the beginning. First paragraph, go light on the emojis.
Okay, good to know. Okay, so we've covered the bio, we've covered the alt text.
Yeah, then alt text.
To add on alt text?
I'm just trying to. It's like, of course, I have something to add on alt text. No, I actually don't. I actually don't have anything to add. It's basically the same on Facebook and Instagram, so I'm going to leave it at that. One thing I think that is really important, and kind of a lead-in to this whole the whole next part of what I'm going to talk about, is caption length.
Yes.
Now, caption length, there has been quite an extensive amount of research done on caption length, but that was all done before Instagram introduced their new keyword search function. So it's about 2 weeks old now, the keyword search function. Yeah, and they rolled it out first to the United States, Canada, Australia, a few other markets, but I think now we've pretty much all got the ability to search for keywords. I know that I have it now in Germany. It was a little bit slower, but I have it now. And basically, this keyword search feature, or search function, allows you to type into the search bar actual keywords. So you don't have to hashtag search anymore. So in the past, you had to search for hashtag blah, blah, blah. And then you would get all the answers related to, all the results related to that particular hashtag. Now with a keyword search, you type in whatever keyword you would like, as you would if you were Googling or whatever. So you could type in, and I did a few tests. I typed in restaurants in Aachen, where I live, and then I got all of the profiles from restaurants in Aachen that were tagged as being in Aachen. So again, location tags are important. So it does work. It does work, and that's really, really important for us, because there are some sort of distinct differences between when you include keywords on your website or in your blogs and keywords on Instagram. Now, I'm always telling people for their website content that we should look for long tail keywords. So those are the ones that are sort of 4 words or more. So it's more like a key phrase as opposed to a word. On the other hand, on Instagram, you don't have really the space to do that. No one is going to type in a 6-word search into that little teeny tiny search bar on their phone. So what you need to do for Instagram is think more along the lines of short tail keywords. So that's your 1 to 3 word keywords or key phrases. I know that kind of confuses a lot of people when you say keyword and then all of a sudden there's 3 words there.
More than one, yeah.
Exactly. So we call them keywords, but it doesn't necessarily mean
something like international education.
Exactly. So that would be a keyword search instead of saying hashtag INTLED, like So before we'd have to say hashtag international education as one long, strange looking word. Now you could search for international space education and you will find results. Yeah. Now this is another reason why optimizing your bio is super important, because the crawlers, the algorithm, will also look at your bio for those keywords. So if it's looking to recommend some accounts and I've typed in international education, it's going to look for other accounts that have international education in their bio first and foremost, and then it's going to look at posts related to international education. Now, does that mean that hashtags are irrelevant? No, it's just another it's another string in your bow. It's another tool. So you still need to have your hashtags, but instead of just relying on hashtags, you now can add in your short tail keywords into your captions, into your bio. Now, caption length. This is where I was going in the beginning. Caption length. Officially, you have 2,200 characters. Now and that's including spaces. So a lot of people forget that spaces are included, but spaces are included. So that works out at around about 365 words per post, which is actually a really good chunk of text. It's sort of, when you think about that, it's sort of moving into the idea of a mini blog, which is, which there is definitely, in my opinion, a place for mini blogs, but not for every single post. Okay, so you've got 365 words. However, the optimal research before this whole keyword change took place, research suggested that 75 words was the optimal length for an Instagram caption. So there's a big disconnect there. We're talking 300 words basically, or just under 300 words. So what do we do? Because obviously the longer your post is, the more keywords you're going to be able to sneak in there. I would mix it up. Like I would have some posts on my feed probably a few times a week with a nice long, max out that 365 words, max it out or come close to it and get a lot of keywords in there. I would also mix it up and have some other posts that are sort of, a bit shorter. And it really depends on content. If you're posting something fun, something, looking at, for example, if you're a school and you have students that are doing a fun activity, no one is going to read 365 words about that fun activity. So for those sorts of posts, you could keep it nice and short and just maybe include a few keywords and rely more heavily on your hashtags. For posts maybe about, say you're a university and you want to give some information about your admissions process, then definitely go for that 375 words, go for the hashtags, but make sure when you have that much content, make sure you are breaking it up into paragraphs, make sure you are scattering emojis in there, anything to make that an appealing piece of content to read.
To make it more readable, which is another word that we use a lot in SEO. So it's also relevant when you are creating content for Instagram, to make sure that even if you're going to go for content which is slightly longer, that this content is readable in any case.
Yeah, absolutely. And one of the wonderful updates that Instagram did 2 weeks ago was remove the need for us to have like a full stop or a dot to have a line break. So now you can just type normally, naturally, no weird full stops to make a line break. One other thing that I really want to emphasize is that when you are inserting your keywords into your content, so when you're putting keywords into content, the same rules apply with regards to keyword stuffing and with regards to, relevance and appropriateness and all those things that we would do on our website content.
Exactly.
So the keywords have to be naturally in your text.
Inserted, yeah.
Exactly. You can't just, put keywords here and there and hope for the best.
And just have it there randomly.
Exactly. You need to have it read naturally as you would if there were no keywords there, basically. So the keywords have to be fully integrated and part of the text in a way that makes absolute sense, and as we would have them appear in everyday conversation is a good way of putting it. Yeah.
see. Okay.
Yeah.
Well,
Yeah.
that is a lot of info today.
I know. I'm sorry. I kind of
No,
sped
no,
through it
no,
all, but
no. Super, super interesting. And I'm sure that there are a lot of people out there who will find this very, very useful. Those of you who have missed the live part of this session, we will also be uploading this video onto our YouTube channel. Core, we will also give this video to you so you
yeah,
can
I
upload
can do
it.
the same.
Exactly, so you can upload it to your channels for your own followers, because I think it has been a really, really interesting session that is loaded with a lot of relevant information that perhaps people can listen to quietly, because it's not something that can perhaps filter in
Exactly.
immediately,
And we've
especially.
raised the surface a little bit too. So
Yeah,
there
yeah,
might be
yeah.
something there might be some questions that our viewers might have, and they're absolutely welcome to come back to either of us with those questions, and we'll help them out. I mean, all of the things that we've spoken about today, I mean, they can be implemented onto any Instagram, Facebook, and even some of the other types of social media platform. These sorts of things do apply.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
yeah,
So, for example, as you were speaking, I mean, I don't want to prolong it further, but as you were speaking, I was also thinking of LinkedIn, because we're very, very
absolutely.
active on LinkedIn. And it is a place where you can now add hashtags, you can now add
Alt
stories.
text.
I alt text and hashtags and alt text and all of it. Yes, all of these
Yeah,
things will start getting me confused. But we are seeing a lot of developments in the area
absolutely.
of social media. And that is why, from kind of both our ends, we as schools and agents, you as our partner, we will stay on top of things. And as soon as there is something to share with our viewers and our followers,
Absolutely.
we will just organize one of these very interesting sessions and share the info with everybody. So, Core,
Absolutely.
it
Yeah.
has been a pleasure,
As
as always,
for me
having
as
you.
well. Yeah,
We were
thank
through
you.
the storm. Nothing major happened. So all the
No.
prayed to listened. Thank you. So thank you very much for being with us today. And as we said, if there's anybody who's interested in further information on this, please get in touch. So we will put you through to Core, and she will certainly help you.
I will. I will. And thank you very much for having me.
You're very, very welcome. We'll see you soon for one of these again.
Absolutely. Bye, everyone.
Bye-bye. Have a nice day.
You too.